because of one of their three tenets. The two that aren't fostering the appreciation for art and beauty are their spiritual practice of joy. It's a channeling of energy for the purpose, this is a shortened version, of purification and happiness. And the third one is natural agriculture. And the natural agriculture, again, the shortened version of it, is sort of like organic, but in spades. Very, very pure kind of almost raw food, but very less cultivated. So, fostering the appreciation of art and beauty is on equal level with all the others, including the spiritual practice. And that's one of the things that attracted me to Chile when I moved here around 99, 2000.
Well, they just had 17 years, so 2002.
Well, there was the grand opening, which I guess counts as 0, and then the first anniversary. So anyway, right around in there. And the art symposium started in 2004. So we've been doing it ever since. Like I say, the importance of belief that art and beauty is essentially as important as those other ones, like healthy food and spiritual practice, caught my attention. And it's a pretty pure bunch, these Chile folks. I have the privilege today and honor of introducing a somewhat newbie Preston artist in that she didn't start here years and years ago, but she's been in the valley up in Villa Grove before Preston. And I went to one of the artists' open studios. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. And was in her studio and visited a little bit. I don't know if you remember, who the hell was I? Just another visitor. But I was taken with the brightness and light in the studio and peacefulness. So I'm thrilled that she's here. She's from Lithuania. Anybody who read the Preston Eagle saw kind of a background. And when I first came in here and I saw her work around the studio, my first impression was, boy, there's quite a sameness to it. And then I started looking closer, and I started looking at the titles. And I began to see actually a huge difference between each painting. And so I was thrilled to learn that her friend Little Star was going to be here as well. And when we visited a little bit, Nori and I, before this, she said that Nori's edition is essentially like a parallel experience through two different art forms coming from the same muse. So, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Thank you, Aaron, for joining us. Yeah, to elaborate on what he said, the reason I decided to bring out Erin is because her music really inspires me, and when I paint, I listen to music, and she draws from the same inspiration as me, and not only that, the mission of our work is very much the same. We hope to harmonize the world through our artwork, through beautifying the world. Like, really, when this all became clear to me was when I was watching the Shumei video on the mission of their work, and it said creating harmony in the world through permaculture, through the arts, and through jewelry. And I really saw my puzzle piece here. I was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to say with this series. I'll really get into how it was born before, and you'll understand. But the reason Erin is here is because we are inspired by the same muses, and not only that, we have the same mission. And after I'm done introducing myself, she's going to be performing for us, and I'll be live painting, so you get to witness this flow, and we'll see what happens, because really there's no plan here. So anyways, my name is Domi Moon, and I was born in Lithuania. I've been out here in the valley for about 5 years now. I'm primarily a self-taught artist. I started doing art really young, pretty much my whole life. My mother was an artist, so she really turned me on, and I've been experimenting with everything. I never really narrowed it down too much, and I never saw art as doing something that you have to be good at. Art is just something that happens naturally, and we can all do art. I'm a strong believer that every single person is an artist, because to do art is to create, and we all create one way or another. Even destruction is a form of art, because you're creating something new, making a clean slate. I went to art school back in Lithuania for a couple of years, which was middle school. So technically I'm still a self-taught artist, but I did have some technical training, so I like to mention that because it happened early on, so I feel like perspective and proportion and realism, all those things come to me a little bit more naturally because I was given that information early on. But since then, like I said, I'm a self-taught artist, and I do take workshops with people that really inspire me, so I get to learn some tips and tricks here and there. But anyways, I'm really, really excited to show this series here because, like I said, the mission really aligns. But another reason is because the series was born here in the San Luis Valley, and my work was completely transformed. So this is very different, and I really wanted the audience to be you guys who experience this valley, to really witness this and hear my transformation through this work. So basically, through a series of miraculous events, we found ourselves living out behind Villa Grove by Bonanza, out in the middle of nowhere. Our closest neighbor was a 10-minute drive. So it was just us and nature, and we're primarily been living in cities and stuff. We did come there from Leadville, so we had a transitional period, but still living out in the country was very new. And so we were there for a year and a half, and that time was really rewarding and beautiful and unbelievable, but at the same time incredibly trying and testing because there's no distractions, you can't run away from yourself. So I was there to face myself and my misery, so to speak. And during that time, I was really trying to create artwork that would do something for the world, contribute in some way, be somehow philosophical. And in the process of that, I kind of started to hate making art because I was trying so hard and nothing was good enough and nothing felt original. And so I almost fell out of love with my craft as well because, you have to face all your demons in this process. So one day I was sitting out there on top of a mountain and just observing the trees and nature, and up until that point I had been an atheist. But in this moment I witnessed how alive everything is. I really saw the unison of it all, the harmony of it all, and most importantly, the intelligence behind it. It became so apparent to me that there's a great intelligence behind this, that it's not random or accidental, that this didn't just fall into place. And I also realized that I'm within it, therefore I'm a part of it. So I felt like just as a tree can just be and exist and feel good about it and be perfect and contribute in a way that it does, I felt that I could just be myself without trying and just, love and forgive and just do my very best. And shortly after this realization, my artwork became a lot more abstract. I just started to play and do it for the joy of making rather than trying to create something to prove a point. And as I was experimenting over time, my artwork started to create these brush strokes. I just really got hooked on the pattern making and just the feeling of that brush stroke and like taking it off and like seeing the texture being created. So I started getting into this hypnotic flow, and at first it used to be a lot flatter. I guess the only example I can show is this piece over here. It seems a little bit less flowy than that. You can see it looks more like leaves. So over time it evolved into this natural organic flow, and I recognized that the effect that this has is really the same thing that I saw in the moving trees when I realized this great truth about, the great intelligence and the oneness, the interconnectedness. So as I've been creating this series, I've been contemplating it, and what I really want to say with this work is that, I call this energy and rhythm because that's what everything is. It's just different rhythms and different energies, ever transforming and ever changing. And my intention, my prayer for these paintings is for when people observe them and possibly hear my story and witness them, that they will begin to see these energies elsewhere. And it's also really interesting for me to hear what people see in my work because it can be very different for different people. They'll see feathers or ferns or fields and skies, and everybody has such a different perception of it, but I tell them that, it's all just ever-evolving, ever-changing energy, and they're all right. And so, on that note, let me make sure I cover them. Yeah, on that note, I would like to open up the space for any questions, because that's really what I wanted to share.
I'm very drawn to, is it mermaid?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that? Because I always love how artists and how they come up with the titles of their art.
Yeah. The reason this happened, it's really interesting. So I was trying to do this tunnel. It felt really aquatic to me. And I was still doing only abstract work. But during it, all these little things started to pop on me, like little curls. I don't even know where they all are, but there's a whole lot of them hidden in here. And they just kind of look like these oysters and pearls in them. And then when I was finished with the painting, I kind of saw that it is like a tunnel, and it kind of reminded me of this like aquatic uterus. And so I decided to name it Mermaid Yoni because it is like a mythical womb in a sense. But that's what it called to me. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? No? Well,
What was your work like the first, what was your work like as a teenager? What was your work like,
excellent.
after you graduated?
Yeah.
How did it evolve?
That's something that I definitely wanted to cover. Thank you for asking. So in high school, since I moved to the States when I was 14, and at the same time, I lost my mom to cancer. So it was an extremely difficult, trying time for me, and all of my artwork was really dark and violent. And even previous to that, actually, it was a way for me to just, express the rage. And so it was very full of rage and not pleasant to look at. And I remember our senior art show, a lot of people would kind of like walk past my work and be like, oh, I don't want to stop there. And that actually made me feel so proud. Because yeah, I did something, makes you feel something. So my artwork was very much inspired by like Marilyn Manson lyrics and just like pure rage and like expressing hatred. And over time, I guess, I stopped creating as much, but I would here and there. And then after we moved to the mountains, when I started painting again, I kind of started out with doing dog portraits. We had adopted our dogs, so I started painting them. I did a couple of mountain landscapes. So it started from painting more like material little things, and then, yeah, some cartoony imagery here and there, and then it kind of evolved from there. But that's a really excellent question, because compared to like what I'm doing now, it was the sheer opposite of it. Any other questions?
The astrological, are you into astronomy? Because I like your paintings of the different
Yeah,
zodiac.
the astrology signs. Yeah, that was kind of my transition out of purely abstract into more representational work again. But I did do this 5-foot by 5-foot painting, and it was of the symbol that is known as above, so below. And it's the square with the triangle with a circle inside it, and it goes into infinity. So I just felt called to do that symbol on this giant canvas. And as I was painting it, I kind of understood the microcosm within macrocosm on like a cellular level, not conceptually, but like it just clicked to me. And then therefore in that instant I was like, wow, so astrology must make some sense, because if we study the macrocosms and this will influence us. So it's kind of in that moment that I figured out that there's some truth to it. And ever since that, I've kind of been pursuing it and studying it. And I'm not like an avid astrologer, but ever since that I have been reading about it and primarily like studying my own chart and how like the events are influencing me. But that's kind of the moment when I learned that it's not just superstition, that it's actually, there is some spiritual truth behind it, So after doing that, that's kind of when I wanted to commit to doing a big series, and doing the zodiac was actually like a big commitment. I wanted to prove myself that I could follow through, and there was a few times when I wanted to drop it or completely change the style and this and that, and so that's why I did the zodiac series. And during each painting I also was kind of trying to study up what each sign represents, so that way it was also my learning process, because I would include the colors for the fire signs and the contrasting signs, so I still try to communicate the energy from the way that I understand each sign.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
What's your sign?
I'm a Capricorn, Sun, Virgo, Moon, and a Sagittarius rising. And half of my chart is in Capricorn, so I'm like a very Capricorn. Any other questions? I think you had one.
How old were you when you left Lithuania?
I was 14.
Now you said you were an atheist, and I always think of Lithuanians as more pagan.
Yeah, and even within our Christian traditions, we have some pagan rituals that I never really realized until having left. Where I was like, oh, we draw straws from under the tablecloth and like do deviation and all these things for Jesus' birthday, but like just kind of never got totally washed out. But yeah, I was raised kind of Christian, but not super traditional. Like we go to church for like Easter and Christmas and this and that. And I got baptized when I was like 10, which was, not very orthodox or whatever. So yeah, I feel like I was in school when I realized that I was an atheist, because we were taught religion there in school. So in like 2nd grade, they told us about heaven and hell and what to be afraid of and this and that, and I just like tried to figure it out, and I was like, this makes no sense. I was like, if there was a hell, this is probably it, and none of this makes sense. And I was like, not for me, thank you. And like the person teaching it was also like really scary, and I was like, want nothing to do with it. Yeah, so that's my story. Okay, any other questions?
So a lot of green, which is sort of a cool and relaxing color. This one up here is more fiery.
Yeah. It is, but it still started out from all the browns, which is an earth tone, and this was a bit of a newer painting, but it still pops with all the pinks everywhere else. And when it comes to the colors in these paintings, I did it all totally intuitively. So like I said, since it was like a new process for me, I try to like not really have my mind interfere with the process and just kind of like unplug and go with the flow. So these are just the colors I was reaching for, and perhaps it's what I really like needed, the vibration in my system or whatever it is, but all these paintings were born intuitively. And with the exception of the fact that when I do the background, I do try to make sure that there is some contrasting spots where things will pop. So I guess just very slight subtle consideration to the color, but other than that, it was very intuitive. Okay, last question.
Is it acrylic?
These are all oil paints. I only really do acrylics at live events, so this will be an acrylic version. And this is a little bit of an evolution from what I was doing here, because I was only doing completely abstract work, but since that it has evolved to more representational work as well. And this I will keep abstract, but it is kind of a play on the technique that has evolved from all of this. So it will be a little bit different, but I think it's a lot more entertaining to watch as well. But yeah, I work mostly in oil paints. I prefer oil paints. I use acrylics out of convenience only. Well, thank you for all the questions, and I'm truly, really honored to introduce to you my dear friend Erin, who goes by the stage name of Little Star. She's been touring all over the country. She's incredibly talented, so we're really fortunate that she made time for us here and came out here. So please, if you enjoy her music, check out her albums and give her a tip because she did travel to be here. And without further ado, here's Little Star. Would you like to say a word or two?
Sure. Hey. Thank you guys for being here. My name is Erin, and I share music under the name of Little Star. My music is composed through vocal looping, so it begins with just the voice and one theme, and then just layers and layers and layers, so creating really rich, harmonious soundscapes. And yeah, I just pleased by hearing Dome's story again right now, and just yeah, I've always felt a similarity in just like the movement and the nature of where our work comes from. I think in my own story, I've always been drawn to song as a mode of expression and carried it kind of as a totem inside of me, and it's definitely morphed form over my lifetime too. But where I sing from now is kind of this space that I came to when I was 14 or so and had an experience in a friend who passed away, and he was just a virtuoso child musician, very Christly human, incredibly bright, and just, but this sense, I think what struck me so much in his passing was feeling that he was everywhere in all things and alive more than ever, and knowing that if he was that, then I must be that too, and kind of perceiving life from this perspective of like looking down on the earth and what this lifetime is and how we are continuous, but how powerful we are as creators within this canvas on this planet. And so I sing and create in hopes of bringing others to those spaces of stillness and of spark at center and of immersion in the beyond, and in realizing that's inside of us, and realizing the power we have as prisms and as painters and as creators. Like Doma was saying, we're all creators and we're here in this beautiful garden of a planet, and can we do? Anyways, so in short, but yeah, just how both of what we've made has kind of been born from that awareness of immersion with the aliveness of everything. And yeah, so I'm really happy to be all here together. We'll see what comes.
Thank you.
Maybe just give me a little bit down if it's too loud or too quiet, just as we get the sound dialed.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I brought out this brush just for you. It's usually too nice to use. It was a really special gift. Because these brushes are super expensive. But I felt like to do a painting this fast, it's also a really great tool. So I'm also really excited about that. It's kind of a big
This song in particular is called Alchemista, Swim Deep, and it is all about the function of the artist and the visionary and the creative, and yeah, just the prism that's inside every one of us. That's entirely unique, but trusting in what we see and then refracting that out to the world around us. So it's appropriate.
What colors are you using now?
Probably not.
Okay.
Guessing. Don't memorize the names of them.
The blue one.
All right, I think we've got one more for you guys. We could go all day. This is great.
That was great. What was that last one called?
So, alchemista, which I don't know, I kind of made up a little bit, but it's like alchemist,
Yeah.
feminine.
Right.
And then slash swim deep, because it's kind of a medley. Like there's kind of these two sections to that song. And the first is like enchantress of the elements, priestess of the high, alchemize all your surroundings like water bends the light, is what it says. And then the second half feels very like diving, like
Now we're swimming.
yeah.
And we're swimming deep.
Yeah.
As deep as
Go there, you know.
It's a good mix up for sure.
Yeah.
I like the first part. So I would say it's bad. How it works.
wasn't what they seemed to be. The nature running swiftly through all things. So reach into the fertile grounds of memory. Receive expression of that which you've come to be. Unfurling beauty. The seed of the tree does not question whether it can be unfurled and reaching out in grace and harmony. Extend and spreading life to all that it may reach. Unfurling beauty.
to let you know Erin does have some CDs there, and she has a newsletter, so leave your email. I also have a mailing list if you'd like to keep up with my artwork, so please leave your emails and check out the stuff that we brought, and can't wait to meet you all. So thank you for being here.